She smiled every day. Not the kind of smile that demanded attention, not the wide, dazzling kind that made people stop and stare. Hers was quieter, polite, reliable, the kind of smile people learned to expect and eventually stopped really seeing. Every morning she stood in front of the mirror and practiced it, not because it was fake, but because it had to be steady. Her name was Mira, and before the world ever knew her as the cheerful one, she had been a child who learned very early that emotions were heavy things, heavy for parents, heavy for teachers, heavy for everyone who already seemed tired. So she learned to carry her own. At school, teachers praised her manners. Such a pleasant girl, they'd say, nodding as if they had discovered something rare. Classmates liked sitting near her. She listened well. She laughed at the right moments. She remembered birthdays. She never caused trouble. Adults trusted her. Children leaned on her. No one asked how she was doing because she looked like someone who was always fine. And Mira learned something powerful and dangerous at the same time. If you smile, people relax. If people relax, they don't ask questions. And if they don't ask questions, you don't have to explain the things you don't yet have words for. Years passed like this. She grew into a woman who could read a room in seconds. She noticed tension before voices rose. She sensed sadness before tears appeared. She became the friend who checked in, the coworker who covered shifts, the daughter who said, "It's okay, really." People described her with words like strong, positive, unshakable. If only they knew how tired strength could be. Mira worked at a small community office, the kind of place where people came in with problems that didn't fit neatly into forms. She helped them patiently. She remembered names. She spoke gently, even when others raised their voices. "Your energy is so calming," someone once told her. Mira smiled. What they didn't see was how every evening she sat on the edge of her bed and felt like she had just finished holding her breath all day. Her shoulders would ache, not from work, but from the constant effort of being okay. She wasn't unhappy in the way people imagine unhappiness. There were no dramatic breakdowns, no scenes, no obvious signs. That's why no one worried. But inside her lived a quiet exhaustion, a sense that she was always performing life instead of living it, that if she ever stopped smiling, even for a moment, something important would fall apart. She told herself she was lucky. She had a job, friends, a roof over her head. So why did she feel so empty sometimes? When her phone buzzed late at night, she answered. When someone needed help moving, she showed up. When a friend cried, Mira held them until the tears passed. But when Mira felt heavy, she told herself it would pass. She didn't want to be a burden. She didn't want to be that person. She didn't want to disappoint the image people had built of her. One afternoon, a new coworker joined the office. Her name was Anya. She was observant in a way that felt different, less curious, more attentive, the kind of person who noticed pauses as much as words. On Anya's first day, Mira helped her settle in. She explained procedures, introduced her to others, and of course, she smiled. "You're very kind," Anya said, looking at her closely. Mira laughed softly. "I just try to be helpful." Anya nodded, but didn't look convinced. Days turned into weeks. They worked side by side. Anya noticed things others didn't. How Mira always volunteered but never delegated. How she stayed late but left quietly. How her smile arrived quickly and disappeared the moment she thought no one was looking. One evening, as they were locking up, Anya said casually, "You don't have to be strong all the time, you know." Mira froze for half a second, just half. Then she smiled. "I'm not strong, I'm just fine." Anya didn't argue. She simply said, "If you ever want to talk, I'm around." Mira went home that night unsettled, not because Anya had accused her of anything, but because she had seen something Mira worked very hard to keep invisible. Weeks later, Mira's mother called. Her voice was tired. She needed help with paperwork, appointments, decisions. Of course, Mira said immediately. She rearranged her schedule again. As she sat at her kitchen table that night, surrounded by forms and notes, Mira felt something crack, not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to make her pause. She realized she couldn't remember the last time someone had taken care of her. The thought scared her, so she pushed it away. The next day at work, a woman came in crying. She had lost her job. She didn't know how she would pay rent. Mira listened patiently, offered resources, reassured her. "You're so strong," the woman said through tears. "I don't know how you stay so positive." Mira smiled. After the woman left, Mira went to the restroom and stood there longer than necessary, staring at her reflection. The smile felt heavy now, like something she was holding up with effort instead of muscle memory. Who would she be if she stopped smiling? Would anyone still need her? That question followed her home. It sat with her while she cooked, while she ate alone, while she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She thought about all the times she had said, "I'm fine," when she wasn't, how easy the words were, how convincing. She wondered if she had become so good at pretending that she no longer knew how to ask for help. The next morning she smiled again, because that's what she did. But something had shifted. For the first time, the smile didn't feel like protection. It felt like a wall. And walls, no matter how carefully built, always have cracks. The crack didn't grow all at once. It spread quietly, the way cold moves through glass before it shatters. Mira noticed it in small moments first. She forgot things, minor things like where she put her keys or whether she had replied to a message. She laughed a second too late in conversations. Sometimes she caught herself staring at nothing, her mind heavy with thoughts she couldn't quite reach. People still saw the smile, that never changed. But behind it, something inside her was beginning to ask a question she had avoided her whole life. What happens when the strong one gets tired? One evening, she sat across from a friend at a cafe. The friend talked about heartbreak, about feeling invisible, about how exhausting it was to always pretend everything was okay. Mira listened. She nodded. She offered comfort. "You're such a good listener," her friend said. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Mira smiled, and the words landed like a weight on her chest. Not because she didn't care, but because she wondered what would happen if she ever needed someone the same way. Would anyone notice? At home that night, Mira opened her phone and scrolled aimlessly. Photos of smiling faces, achievements, announcements. Everyone looked like they were moving forward while she felt stuck, holding space for everyone else's lives but never stepping fully into her own. She told herself to be grateful. She told herself this was just a phase. She told herself the same things she had always told herself. The next week, her mother forgot an appointment. It wasn't a big thing, easily rescheduled, but when Mira gently pointed it out, her mother sighed heavily. "You always expect so much," her mother said. "I'm doing my best." The words weren't cruel. They weren't meant to hurt, but they did, because Mira suddenly realized how often she was expected to absorb things quietly, how often she was the one who adjusted, softened, understood. She apologized automatically. "I didn't mean it like that. It's okay." And later, alone, she wondered why she always felt guilty for needing anything at all. At work, Anya continued to watch without pushing. She didn't demand closeness. She didn't pry. She just existed, calm, steady, present. One afternoon, during lunch, Anya asked, "Do you ever get tired of being everyone's safe place?" Mira laughed a little too quickly. "I don't mind." Anya stirred her tea. "That's not what I asked." Silence stretched between them. Mira felt the familiar urge to deflect, to joke, to smile her way out of it. But something stopped her. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the quiet way Anya asked, not as an accusation, but as an invitation. "I don't know how not to be," Mira said, finally. The words surprised her as soon as they left her mouth. Anya looked up. "That sounds heavy." Mira swallowed. "I think I learned early that being easy made things easier for everyone else." Anya nodded slowly. "And for you?" Mira hesitated. No one had ever asked her that before. "I don't know," she said softly. "I don't think I ever checked." That night, Mira cried for reasons she couldn't fully explain. Not sobbing, not dramatically, just quiet tears, slipping out as years of unspoken feelings loosened their grip. She cried for the child who learned to smile instead of speak, for the teenager who didn't want to be a problem, for the adult who mistook usefulness for worth. And when the tears stopped, she felt something unfamiliar. Relief. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was honesty. The next day, something small but important happened. A coworker asked Mira to cover a shift, last minute as usual. Mira opened her mouth to say yes. Then she paused. "I can't today," she said. The words felt foreign. Her heart raced. She waited for disappointment, irritation, judgment. The coworker shrugged. "No worries, I'll figure it out." Just like that. Mira stood there afterwards, stunned. Nothing collapsed. No one was angry. The world didn't fall apart because she had said no. That realization shook her more than any breakdown ever could have. Over the following weeks, Mira practiced small acts of honesty. She admitted when she was tired. She left work on time. She didn't immediately fill every silence with reassurance. People noticed. "You okay?" someone asked, hearing the difference in her voice. "Yes," Mira said, then corrected herself. I'm figuring things out." It felt vulnerable, exposed, but it also felt real. Not everyone reacted well. Some people were confused. A few were distant. They were used to the old Mira, the endlessly accommodating one. That hurt. But Anya was right about one thing. Being strong all the time had been costing Mira more than she realized. One evening, Mira stood in front of the mirror again. She smiled, but this time she didn't practice it. She studied her face without expression. The lines of fatigue, the softness, the humanity. She realized she had been afraid that without her smile, there would be nothing left. But what she saw instead was someone who survived by adapting and who now deserved to rest. The truth was, Mira wasn't broken. She was just tired of pretending she wasn't human. She began journaling, messy, unfiltered thoughts she never planned to show anyone. She wrote about resentment she felt guilty for, about love she gave freely but rarely received in the same way, about how lonely it felt to be everyone's emotional anchor. With each page, she felt lighter, not because things were suddenly easy, but because they were finally honest. One afternoon, she sat with her mother and spoke carefully. "I need you to hear something," Mira said. "I don't always have it together, and sometimes I need support too." Her mother looked surprised, then thoughtful, then quiet. "I didn't know," she said eventually. And Mira realized something important. People can't respond to needs they never see. That night, Mira smiled, but it wasn't the old smile. It wasn't armor. It was just a smile. She didn't know exactly who she was becoming, only she knew she was done disappearing behind politeness. And slowly, the truth she had hidden for so long became something else entirely. Not a secret, but a beginning.
Being seen turned out to be harder than Mira expected. Not because people rejected her, but because she had spent so long hiding that she didn't know how to exist without the mask. Some mornings she still woke up with the old instinct: smile first, adjust later. She would catch herself mid-gesture, mid-sentence, and pause. It felt like learning a new language using muscles that had never been exercised. Honesty, she discovered, was tiring in a different way. At work, the dynamic shifted subtly. She still did her job well, but she no longer absorbed everyone else's emotions without question. When conversations turned heavy, she didn't rush to fix them. She listened, but she didn't disappear. A few people pulled away. They didn't say it outright, but Mira could feel it, the distance, the slight awkwardness, as if they were uncomfortable with the idea that she, too, had edges and limits. That hurt more than she wanted to admit. One evening, she sat alone in her apartment, staring at her phone, tempted to go back to the old version of herself. It would be easier, familiar, predictable. She could send the message, apologize for being distant, offer help she didn't have the energy to give. She didn't. Instead, she put the phone down and let the loneliness sit beside her. That was new, too. Anya noticed the change, not just the growth, but the struggle. "You don't have to replace the smile with toughness," Anya said one day. "You're allowed to be soft and honest." Mira thought about that for a long time. She realized she had been swinging between extremes, either endlessly accommodating or guarded and quiet. What she was learning now was balance, and balance took patience. One weekend, Mira visited an old friend she hadn't seen in years, someone who remembered her before she perfected the smile. They talked late into the night, about life, about mistakes, about things that didn't turn out the way they'd hoped. At one point, the friend said, "You know, you were always the one who held everyone together. I used to wonder how you did it." Mira smiled gently. "I didn't. I just didn't let anyone see when I was falling apart." The friend was quiet for a moment, then said, "I wish I had known." So did Mira. Because what surprised her most was not how many people leaned on her, but how many would have leaned toward her if she had let them. The truth was, her silence had taught people how to treat her. They had learned she didn't need much, that she would handle things, that she would be fine. And now she was teaching them something new. That strength doesn't mean silence. That kindness doesn't require self-erasure. That smiling through pain is not the same as healing. There were setbacks. Days when she slipped back into old habits. Moments when she overgave and felt resentful afterward. Times when she wondered if being honest was worth the discomfort it brought. But then there were moments like this. A coworker asking, "Do you want help with that?" A friend saying, "You don't have to explain." Her mother calling, not to ask for something, but just to check in. Small things, but they mattered. One evening, Mira stood in front of the mirror again. This time she smiled, and it reached her eyes without effort. Not because everything was perfect, but because she no longer felt invisible to herself. She realized something then that felt like the heart of it all. People didn't fail her by not seeing her pain. She had simply never shown it. And now that she was, slowly, imperfectly, she was learning something powerful. You don't have to be the strongest person in the room to be worthy of love. You don't have to smile to earn care. And you don't have to carry everything alone just because you always have. Mira still smiled every day, but now it wasn't a secret. It was a choice. And when she didn't smile, when she was tired, or quiet, or unsure, that was okay too. Because the truth no longer lived hidden behind her expression. It lived in her voice, in her boundaries, in her willingness to be human. And that truth, once finally seen, was lighter than the mask she had worn for so long.